Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to this, our 31st of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice, a D&D/TTRPG/life podcast where I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, the Bard, however you may know me, do my best to answer said advice questions. I hope that everybody's doing well on this Friday evening. It's been a weird week, a little all over the place, but doing all right. Glad to see everyone here. All the regulars, Chris, Avram, Flint, Pirate, River, Bird, all the Chris's, Cat Jazz. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope that you had a good week. I had a pretty good week myself. At the top of the podcast, as we'd like to do, would like to remind everybody of the email on this thing, which is, of course, bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice, if that helps you remember. Please send questions. You know, there's some of you out there that haven't sent any questions. You're doing a lot of listening and not a lot of asking. And some of you guys, some of you people out there send in like 5, 6, 7 questions at a time. I really appreciate those, by the way, because I can use those for episodes in the future. So please send any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques to bardadvice@gmail.com. If you want to get some merchandise, you can do so by going over to manshorts.com and help support the channel there. And if you would like to contribute to anything that I do musically, you can do so by sending cash to my PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, YAHZICK. I am in the stages of getting to a place where I'm comfortable with finishing the album, which means a lot more to me in my head than anyone out there. But just know that it's going to be coming in soon. So let's keep on keeping on. Also, at the top of the hour, because I have notes here, would like to thank all of our patrons, all of our members on the channel. If you've considered getting membership on the channel, that's something that helps us directly monetarily and gives you a cool badge and cool stickers. Major thanks to all of the super chatters, whether you send $1 or $100, it's very much appreciated. That money comes to us directly, helps us keep this train moving, the channel in general, as well as this podcast specifically. And also a reminder to please like, comment, subscribe, and rate the podcast on your respective platforms. It's much appreciated and, again, helps keep this thing moving. So this week, we are not going to be doing an art corner. It's a bit of a way for me to kind of show my solidarity with the Writers and Screen Actors Guild, although I am a member of neither. I think it's important to use this platform and this space and time to talk about the insanity that's going on when it comes to that strike. This is the front of Universal Studios. They have cut all of the trees so that there is no shade, so that people can't come and protest. So, or rather, if they do come and protest, it's going to be pretty difficult considering it's a bajillion degrees. Also, this article, which I believe this is a Vanity Fair article, I'm not sure, but studios allegedly won't end strike until writers, quote, start losing their apartments. A new report from Deadline claims that AMPTP wants the WGA, that's the Writers Guild, to bleed out and is willing to let the strike drag on until writers run out of money. Quote, a cruel but necessary evil. This is why this is important. Whether you are a writer or an actor, or whether you're somebody that believes that writers and actors should be compensated properly, this is why this is important. Because in 18 months, this is going to be happening with Walmart employees and, Amazon employees. It's about to come for UPS next. They're about to strike with the Teamsters, right? That's going to be a huge thing. So the reason I think it's important to talk about this is like whether or not you think this immediately affects you or if you care, I think that it's an important moment in history to pay attention to because AI is not just coming for writers and actors. It's coming for everybody. It's coming for all jobs. So I think that the biggest thing that we can do to help contribute to this is to just spread awareness about it, and let people know that it's going on. It's insanely petty and inhuman, in my opinion. Some of these quotes that have been, alleged. To be fair, I don't think that some of them are confirmed, but I mean, I'm sure that they're saying something close to that, and it's not cool. And it's only going to get more difficult. The fact that they're reacting this way says to me that they're confident in their AI model to produce content. They really think that they have the upper hand here, so they just don't care. And that's going to flow down through all kinds of corporations. So it's a bit, not necessarily a positive note to open on, but again, I think an important thing to bring up in the world of art, and then in the world of just human beings in general, and what's going to happen when AI comes knocking at the door. So, with all of that out of the way, I have lined up this evening 5 questions and a follow-up, and we can also do some chat later. Not to totally jump into everything, let me take a look at some of what chat was saying. And later, when the trees look like they're dead, dying, they will wonder why. People in charge not thinking things through. Yeah, for sure. Independent studio A24 agreed to the strikers' request, and they are not as wealthy as the big studios. It's not like the requests are unreasonable. Yeah, but A24 is, they're independent. So they're going to do that. A24 might be one of the last flags out there for independent filmmaking. And they've gotten a lot bigger lately. Just wondering if cast members were standing in solidarity with SAG and AFTRA. I am not sure. I don't know where anybody stands. I don't think that there's a place that anybody should stand. I can only speak for me, and I stand on this side of the picket line that is not on the side of these studio executives and billionaires that are backing them in saying these things like, well, we'll just let them starve, essentially, is what they're saying. So I'm anti that. Cast members. Yeah, sorry. I didn't know that it was going to take this much of a turn, but again, I thought it was important to bring up. So, moving into the actual content of this thing we call Bard Advice, where we talk about D&D and ask questions. Let's get into it. The first question this evening is from someone who did not leave their name, and I couldn't really tell from the email, so we'll just go with anonymous. But Anonymous asks, been listening since episode 1, first time questioner. Oh, cool. I've been the forever DM for a few years now. We've run through Curse of Strahd. That's supposed to be Curse of Strahd, but I guess I put COT instead of COS. Curse of Strahd and Tomb of Annihilation, as well as a homebrew campaign. I'd like to run a one-shot, but I'm not sure I ever technically have. Is it structured differently from a full campaign? Any tips for creating a cool one-shot? Thanks for all the advice. Well, thank you for the question, Anonymous. I'm glad that you sent one in. So, in terms of the best things to do for a one-shot, I made some lists. I made some notes, not some lists. Notes and lists. Keep it simple was number 1 in terms of plot and incentive. So have like a solid hook and clear objectives. In the campaign, of course you want that in like a full campaign, but for a one-shot in particular, I think keeping it simple in terms of like, this is what we're here to do, this is what's going on, it just makes it more streamlined. Mix up the combat and RP. I'd said have a good combat, have a good mix rather of combat and RP moments, as well as puzzles. Puzzles are always good, and a thing that DMs can tend to forget. I certainly do. And remember to have fun, because with a one-shot, you are a bit off the leash. I wouldn't say that it's too terribly different in terms of structure. It's just less time frame to work in. So, as you said that you've done your own homebrew campaign, It would essentially work like that, just in sort of a miniature form. So instead of writing something that you know is going to be, I don't know, 15, 20 sessions, you instead write it for 4 hours. And the other cool thing about a one-shot, I think, is that it's really freeing for it's freeing for you as the DM, because you should definitely feel like you have way more of a license to TPK. And I think it's also more freeing for the player, certainly for me in one-shots that I've played, because, I mean, people know how I play. I'm a loose cannon already in full-on campaigns. Let me get in a one-shot and it's all over, because I know that there's no real repercussions to this session. It's like whatever happens here, it's almost like being in Vegas. It's like whatever happens in the one-shot stays in the one-shot. You don't have to deal with any of your decisions later as you would in a regular campaign. And that's true of the DM too. You know, if you TPK, it's just like, well, that was a good one, and then you just move on. I don't think that it's as big of a thing as if you did like a 6-month campaign and did a TPK. Let's see some of what chat's saying. For a one-shot is have a definite goal the party can reach in the allotted playtime. Directing a group motivation isn't a bad thing. You heard about this bounty and you're here to claim it, for example. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Do a one-shot where the Evil King has taken the jobs from the Bards Guild and given them to the dwarves, forcing the Bards Guild to lose their income and figure a way to solve the issue. Yeah, no doubt. Just like a an on-the-nose, like, political campaign. Every time you play, I think of Charlie from It's Always Sunny. Wild card. Yeah, no doubt, man. That's the way to be. It's always fun. Whoever dies first wins. I kind of have that mentality anyway. But yeah, I think that those are all good things. I think just keeping it clear with like what everybody's here, what everybody's doing, what the incentives are, and just have fun with it. You don't have to stress about it. I think that it sounds like you might be stressed because it's like you're used to doing the long form campaigns, but honestly, a one shot is way less stress than a full on campaign. Define terms. One shot can mean a lot of things. Are you integrating this into existing character story or new characters to never be seen again? That's a good point too, because I was really heavy on saying like one shots, like it's like being in Vegas. Doesn't matter, but it could, depending on the characters that are involved and depending on how your group plays. Obviously, everybody's different in terms of what works for them, but I'd say as long as you just you have clear objectives and you have fun, then, or rather you focus on having fun, then it's going to be cool. Writing one-shots is actually pretty hard for me. I always end up doing too much world plot building. Yeah, I understand that for sure. I can definitely relate to that. Over-explaining. Man, you should see some of my text messages. my friends and my wife would tell you it's just like, just blocks. It's just how I communicate, I guess. Too much. But thank you for the question, Anonymous. Hopefully that helps you. Moving on into the next question, which is from Nate. Nate asks, hello, Charles. Love the pod. Here's my question. I always run a bard, but lately have been getting the urge to multiclass as a way to try something new. Our DM has indicated that we may level up soon, so in your opinion, what are the best classes to multiclass for bards? Much appreciation from one bard to another. Yeah, man, bard power. Thank you for the question. So I did a little bit of looking into this just from a mechanical standpoint as well as just my own opinions. So it depends obviously on what you want to do. The first thing I see in chat from River is Rogue. I see Sorcerer and Warlock, and I was going to recommend both of those just because, going back to it depends on what you want to do. If you want to stick within your casting mod, because bards use Cha, then you'd go Warlock or Sorc. Oh, I guess you could go Paladin. Don't Paladins use Cha? But if you wanted to stick with like spell casting and you just want to use this as a way to open up more spells, then yes, Warlock or Sorc probably Warlock preferred. Studebaker Peppercorn was a Warlock bard, and he was fun. The other thing is, it depends on if you want to be doing something totally different than what you're doing as a bard. It's hard to know without knowing what you're doing with your existing bard. Oh, thank you for the donation in the super chat, Caboose124. Are you going to Gen Con if you're a fan meetup? I don't know the answer to that question. When is it? And where is it? Probably not. In Indiana? Probably not, unfortunately. But who knows? Maybe at some point down the line we'll get ourselves out to a con. Totally lost track of what I was doing. Oh, talking about multi-classes for bard. Yeah, rogue or artificer. That could be fun. Cause that seems kind of bardy. A bardificer. Ultimately, I said you should do what's going to bring you the most fulfillment when it comes to RP and the story, and also keep the party in mind as to what you're doing. Because from what I saw, I've never done it, I don't think, but a barbarian, while a clever term, in 5e is not that great from what I saw. Let me see what people are saying. Bardomancer, Barbarian, Bard Paladin has a lot of slots to smite. Bardlock, which would be Bard Warlock or Bard Rogue, will have tons of tech. That's a good point. If you take something that's not a full caster, you lose out on 40% of your higher level powers. A player in my group made a Druid, Paladin, 5 levels of Paladin, the rest in Druid. Druid Paladin sounds cool. Yeah, I think Warlock or Sorcerer. A Bardlock or a Bard Sorc is going to be, I think, the best bet for you. But again, it depends on what you want to do. If you just want like different skills besides what you're doing already with magic, then go Rogue. Or Artificer. I mean, you could go anywhere. Oh, and also like prereqs are important, right? Like, don't you have to have you have to have prereqs to get into classes. Yeah, you can't just like be a barbarian. You have to have like a certain strength score, which you may not have if you're a bard that's built for Cha and other stuff, dexterity or something. So ultimately, whatever works best for you and the party. But I'd say that the best ones are Warlock and Sorcerer. Strictly because they're the same casting modifiers. So there wouldn't be as much of a loss with anything in terms of casting. And your character wouldn't miss a beat for it. As opposed to multiclassing into something that uses an entirely different modifier, which might be bad based on your existing bard character. Swashbuckler pirate type build. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, if your bard is somebody, by the way, that is pretty martial and not necessarily on the spells, then yeah, rogue. Rogue could be cool because you could totally build that out as like a, or maybe even fighter if you were going to do that. So yes. That's my answer for that. Hopefully that points you in a direction, Nate. I appreciate the question. Let's keep moving. We got a third one. We got a third one coming in. And this third question is from Mark. Mark asks, huge fan of the channel. I've been thinking of a new class called a Wandslinger. Think gunslinger, but with wands. I just don't know how to implement it. I was thinking maybe having some device like a gun grip added to the wand. Should said device be able to disconnect and connect to different wands? Should it be a subclass for a wizard or maybe a fighter? Someone who can't use spells normally can use wands with no disadvantages? How should ammo be handled? Just think this would be a cool idea, but was never able to figure out how to do it. Any help would be appreciated. Well, thank you for the question, Mark. the first thing that jumps out to me with this is that this would be more of like a magic item than a full-on subclass. So this is the notes that I have on it. I feel like this would work similar to scrolls. Almost as if you could load spells into this mechanism that was imbued by magic. So for me, I would allow a spellcaster to use this as their spell slots for purposes of RP. And I think it would be wise to limit its use to specific wand, meaning that you can't just put one of these things on any old wand and cast it. Almost like the items are made for the wand themselves, so without each other they're useless, which would lend itself to a whole plot arc with a character of them losing either their wand or their grip. Not sure of the benefit of this beyond the RP, but it is pretty cool. And also, in theory, if the spells are stored in the wand grip, then anyone in the party could pick it up and use it, or anyone not in the party laughs in DM. So that's where I'm at with it. I don't think that it would be so much a full-on subclass unless this particular combination of items could do different spells than they normally could. It seems like it would be more for RP purposes. But to the point I made in my notes, if you did do it in that way where it was a magic item, that makes it interesting. Artillerist Artificer already does all this. Oh, really? Interesting. So, such thing exists. Seems like a cool warlock tech. Artillerist Artificer, you say? Well, let's see what that's about. So this is just, so Artillerist is just a specialty. Yeah? Oh, that's right. This does do this. I think I've used this class before to build stuff. Yeah. So essentially, Artificer Artillerists get Eldritch Cannon at 3rd level. They can create a magical cannon. It's a magical object. Yeah, and it can do stuff. It can be a flamethrower or a ballista. Oh, arcane firearm. There it is. At 5th level, you know how to turn a wand, staff, or rod into an arcane firearm or conduit for your destructive spells. When you finish a long rest, you can use woodcarver's tools to carve special sigils into a wand, staff, or rod, and thereby turn it into your arcane firearm. The sigils disappear from the object if you later carve them on a different item. The sigils otherwise last indefinitely. You can use your arcane firearm as a spellcasting focus for your artificer spells. When you cast an artificer spell through the firearm, roll a d8, and you gain a bonus to one of the spell's damage rolls equal to the number rolled. Cool. So that's in Tasha's. So they already did it. It's like The Simpsons. Simpsons did it. And did they have this in 3.5 Avram? Was Wandslinger like a prestige class or a X amount of charges when it comes to wands, and when you find a wand, you have to roll in order to determine how many charges a wand has. Oh, I like that. It still has to be identified as the spell attached to the wand. Yeah, that's cool. If you did it as like a magic item, then you could do it as such where you rolled a percentile to determine like how many spell slots it has or what spells it has in it. And then maybe work it like wild magic even, in terms of someone using it that it doesn't belong to them if they were to just find it. But yes, so thank you, Flint, for the note on the Artillerist Artificer. I thought that when I was reading through this and writing notes on this that I had seen this somewhere myself, and I built a BBEG for this, for something, and used this. So that totally makes sense. So there you go. Mark, it exists. It's the Artillerist specialty, the Artillerist subclass of Artificer in 5e. Or you can just do it as a cool magic item or magic items. But That said, I could see a class built around it, more like a gunslinger fighter, but with wands. Yeah, that's true. I guess that you could do it if that was the idea of the class, that someone who was not a spellcaster was using this item to do stuff with. That could be really cool for sure. And maybe you build it in such a way where the subclass, where the abilities that they gain are just removing the disadvantages that other players would have, right? So, for example, you create this gun grip thing where it's like a magic item, an arcane firearm, so to speak. And if someone that didn't know magic used that, there would be a number of disadvantages to that. Maybe as part of this subclass, your study with or use of the arcane firearm lessens those disadvantages and eventually even turns into advantages for you. So maybe you get bonuses to the attack if you're using said wand, arcane firearm, whatever it is. Warlock with a gun-packed weapon is how I run it for one of my players. Oh, that's really cool. Packed with a gun. Like a Wandslingers gangster song. A Wandslinger. Oh, yeah. That'd be pretty cool. A Wandslinger. I'll figure out maybe a way to work that into a bar. How do you not break the game with that, though? To keep someone from finding an insane wand, that just makes everything too easy. True, but you know, we did mention that the wand may not work if it didn't have that grip on it. So that could be a way to try and mitigate that in the world. I think that you have kind of what you're looking for already in the Artillerist Artificer, and then if you wanted to do it as a subclass, I would just do it in such a way where, like you said, they would be able to use it without disadvantages. Maybe that's the first thing that they get awarded in level 1 of the subclass, is that they don't have disadvantages on using a spell, using this wand, even though they don't have any innate spell casting ability. You could do it that way. Do it the way, however, it makes the most sense for you. You know? Alternate way of adding spells to your spell book, you have a bundle of spell wands. Yeah, that's cool too. Because if you're going to use it as spell slots, you could also use it just for known spells as well. That could be in lieu of a book. If you were a fighter who had no innate spellcasting abilities, it would exist as your book. Because it's the only way that you can cast spells. I think the key would be to separate what the wand normally does from what the class gives it. You can use the normal effect of the wand, but also do other stuff too. Yeah, you can make it however you want as far as the subclass, but I think that the main goal of the subclass would be to mitigate any of these disadvantages that one might have for using this magical item without any innate spellcasting. So, roll % every time you use it. When it explodes. That's pretty cool. I like that idea too. Maybe that's how a normal, maybe that's how a person who was not trained in that subclass would have to do it. Right? So you create this thing that is like, oh yeah, check out, it's this cool magic gun grip, arcane grip that goes on an arcane firearm. And so there is this whole subclass of people who just do that thing. I think that's pretty cool. And if you don't do that thing and you were just a person that was just walking along and picked this wand up, you would need to roll percentile on it like you would wild magic, and it could very well explode you. But that would be the point of taking the subclass, is that you could be a martial fighter or someone who has no spell casting at all and use this wand to cast spells. And that would be cool because you kind of switch up like what modifier it uses. So maybe you build your character in such a way, and then the grip that you get is a different spellcasting mod. So now it bequeaths you to work to try and find one that fits your modifier. There's a lot of cool ways that you can do that with RP. But I think any of the ones that we mentioned would be good for you. A two-piece artifact. Like, you need the holster to make the wand work. Yeah, for sure. I think you could do it that way and also keep it as the subclass. Because these things could exist in your world. They could just be regulated. Only recharge in its design sheath. In its designated sheath. Yeah. That's cool. Any of those things I think would work for you. But best of luck to you in making that. I think it's a cool idea. I didn't, certainly didn't mean to discredit the idea by bringing up the artificer artillerist. It's just that it's like, well, hey, a form of that already exists. You could expound upon it by any of the other recommendations that we made here. So I remember back in AD&D, guns had a chance to explode. Using that rule for wands would make a good equalizer. Yeah, no doubt, because it is pretty powerful of a thing if it works in the way that we're talking about. And so that could be a pretty good way to kind of equalize it, is so that it's like, this thing might blow up on you. And that kind of makes sense, because that's the whole essence of the class, is that you're someone that's kind of doing something that you're not technically really like made for. So I dig it. Let's keep moving. We got some more questions and a follow-up to go through, and maybe have a little chat, depending on what our time is. I'm going to be playing some BattleBit after this, so that'll be fun. The next question that we have is from Call Me Raven. And Raven asks, should I let a player be the BBEG in the end? So, funny enough, first of all, thank you for the question. When I initially read this question, I thought, well, that seems outrageous. And then, as I was answering, it occurred to me that I've not technically done this, but I've come close as a player. So these are the notes I wrote. It depends entirely on how you feel about it. Obviously, as the DM, every party's different and every player is different. If the player's asking to do it in good faith, i.e. to enhance the story, if they really think that, like, oh, it would be way cool. Because if that's the case, that's cool. If it's a plan and such where it's like, how would really turn this whole campaign on its head is if this happened, and it's a thing where it's like unexpected. I'd say to be weary in the event that it might be a situation where the player's just kind of trying to be an edgelord and like win the campaign. That's probably rare, but it's a possibility. I would say there's something to be said about doing it this way. It kind of happened to me with Verena in the Wii play, albeit by sort of accident. I mean, granted, they were all my actions and Verena the player's actions, but that's all to say that those of you who have seen the Wii play, I wasn't necessarily the BBEG, maybe assistant BBEG. Assistant to the BBEG? Kind of. Not even really. I was more BBEG adjacent. That's really what it was. But that was not planned. That was a thing that just kind of happened because of my decisions in character. So, unless you feel like it would hurt the story that you already have planned, or that it would bother the rest of the party, then I say go for it. It could even be something that the rest of the party would be like really excited about. Like, cause it's, that technically puts you in a PvP scenario. I think when it happened in the Wii play, it was kind of more annoying for everyone that I was like also involved in that. But I have a tendency to do that where I end up playing two players, or two characters rather. I have a tendency to seemingly disappear or lose a character and then start another character, and then they come back together at some point. But whatever, they would have one-shotted that fool without Verena. True, that's true. Yeah, I guess Verena was more instrumental than I give her credit for, because there was like there were like 2 whole episodes where there was the stuff that I did with Ethan that was, man, I wish that we would have recorded that. The stuff that we did individually with Verena. because that was, we did it with Tantor, but we didn't do it with Verena, and those sessions were crazy because it was just so much lore going on. So I guess, yeah, I guess the Verena kind of was, she was like the assistant to the BBEG. Played a game and not as a DM where one of the players from the beginning was the BBEG but was working against the party without the party's knowledge. I did that with my wizard, set up an evil paladin as the BBEG, and boom, bait and switch at the last second. It was epic. Yeah, that it could make for a really epic misdirect surprise ending, right? If you, especially if they're already kind of, if they have a pathway or an idea for who the BBEG might be, and then it's like, surprise, it's me, Dio. it was me, the paladin in the party. You're all dead. That's cool. That's pretty cool. And if the party succeeds, that's kind of cool too. So, yeah, that's my final answer. Unless you feel like it's going to mess up the story, then go for it. I think it's cool. I think it has way cool potential. As someone who's kind of done it accidentally before, and as someone who's just kind of like, you know, colors outside the lines in general and is always looking for like, oh, what if we did this? I think that's a cool thing to do. It could be very rewarding for everybody. I would say to, without outright asking the party, you know, I guess use your best judgment as the DM. You know your party. And, you know, if they wouldn't have a problem with it and it doesn't bother you and your story, then go for it. Hello everyone coming in. Welcome. You've not missed too much. We've talked a little bit about, one-shots. We've talked about bard multiclassing. We've talked about wand-slinging. And at the moment, we're discussing whether or not a player should be permitted to be the BBEG in the end. As the DM, it's totally your final call. I think that it lends itself to a lot of cool potential, but just be careful that it's not a thing where it's just like, I'm trying to come in and steal a campaign and be the center of it. So, just stuff to keep in mind. Oh, and thank you for the membership, Chris. Much appreciated. Having no luck focusing, families being busy, and a friend that is making plans to drop over, feel a bit bad about not being able to keep up properly with chat or Chaz. Well, don't be sad. You can always watch these things back, although I usually don't think I have the live chat thing turned on, but you can always listen to them back. It's no worries. It's not like you're missing any kind of major TED Talk. We're just kicking it and talking about D&D stuff. That's just how we roll around these parts. So let's move on, because the next question, which is the last question before we do the follow-up and stuff. Oh, thank you. Love the rap videos. Appreciate it much. Thank you. Working on my 3rd album, Organized Lightning. That'll be fun. Hopefully it'll be out before the end of this year. We'll see. So this last question is from Chris, as if we could have an episode without it. And Chris asks, I recently lost my sister. While I was the one who first introduced her to TTRPG, she definitely reinvigorated my interest in the hobby over 2020. While looking over the various catalogs of the various things that can be done with remains, ashes, none really fit her well enough. I've had it in my head that I could incorporate her into dice and make a D20 to memorialize her. I think she'd get a kick out of the idea, but I'm worried it might be considered weird or even ghoulish. What are your thoughts? Follow up to the above. If yes on the die, some friends I have told about the potential idea have suggested, half jokingly, I use said D20 when making deciding roles during DMing, as a way to keep her playing in my games. Likewise, thoughts, please. Thank you for the question, Chris. So I'm going to just read my notes on this one. So we're just going to run through those, and then we can talk about stuff if I missed anything. So first of all, I'm very sorry for your loss. That must be terrible. I can't imagine. So I'm very sorry to hear that. too many of us have lost too many too soon. So, sorry for that. As far as what others might think or society en masse thinks about it, I say who cares, especially lately. I feel like the internet age combined with the pandemic and stuff, I think that showed us that there's not really like a standard. There's no real like normal. Everybody's so different. And I'm a believer that most people are just doing the best they can. So all of those things said, I decided to approach this from the perspective of what I would think if I was the one that was gone. So, because I intend to be cremated. And I gotta be honest, the idea of my remains being inside of or part of a D20 that's used in game is pretty cool to me. At the end of the day, you and your party matter the most in terms of making a decision like this. You, of course, matter the most. Your party doesn't really matter in whether or not you do this. It's more so in them if you decide to do it and using the 20 in game, which they seem okay with. You probably know your sister better than anybody on Earth. I think siblings typically know each other even better than parents because they usually grow up together. So you know better than anybody how she would feel about it. TLDR, it's your call. I wouldn't think that you were weird or ghoulish for it. I think it's kind of cool. I would be happy to know from any form of afterlife, if there is one, that my friends were using my ashes in dice. I think that would be cool. But it's up to you. It seems to me that your party is supportive of the idea, which is great. You know, good friends. That's cool. Because they certainly didn't. It doesn't sound like they made you feel weird or ghoulish about it. So I'd go for it, man. I think it's a really cool idea. If you think that she would like it, do it. And yeah, how cool. You get to keep her in, you know, there gets to be a part of her in all of your games. Like, I think it's cool. I think if people want to think it's weird, it's like, whatever. Who cares? What's weird anymore? Have you looked around the last couple of years? What the hell is even the standard for weird? So, do you, man. I think it's cool. If it were me, I'd be cool with it. So, got my thumbs up. Yeah, look at chat saying. Awesome idea. Beautiful tribute. Go for it. I think it'd be awesome if someone brought a set like that to the table. Yeah, dude. I mean, I think it's cool. There is no bar for weird. Yeah, no doubt. Like I said, everybody's just doing the best we can, and that's all we can do, right? What else are we going to do? The worst that we can? Well, that's silly. I don't think anybody's doing that. Thank you for the question, Chris. I hope that gives you an answer. That's just my opinion and how I feel about it. And, you know, you can see in chat what their thoughts are about it. So go for it. Make the dice in her favorite colors. Yeah, that'd be cool. Oh, wow, Avram said he lost his sister, too. I'm sorry to hear that, Avram. Yeah, that's tough. I can't imagine. You know, I don't have any siblings. But I've lost several people I've loved, and it's not nice. So any way that you can keep them in your mind in a positive light, I say go for. I say do it. Let's move on. We've got to do this follow-up here, and then we might have a couple of minutes for chat, and then, sheesh, I've got to get out of here. I'm already looking out the door, gang. I don't know how this happens every week, but it just moves on through. So let's do this follow-up. This follow-up is from Tim, and it is from a question. I don't remember if it was last episode or maybe the one before, but it's a follow-up on a question about a beholder. So here we go. Tim says, just wanted to follow up on the advice you gave me about running a beholder. After several weeks, my players finally made it to the beholder's lair. although they didn't know it was a beholder. I gave them multiple opportunities to rest or wait, of course, but they weren't worried. They should have been. Short story, near TPK. 5 players went in, 2 came out. Slightly longer story. The fight went 11 rounds. I used minions to occupy the players like you suggested, while the beholder hovered out of reach and blasted them. I did give the beholder multiple cursed amulets around its eyes, but it didn't factor into the fight. At the last moment, when a TPK was almost certain, the beholder cast charm on the remaining wizard. Had the wizard failed, it would have been over, but he had a staff of charming, which allowed him to reverse the spell back onto the beholder. It failed the save, and we roleplayed that the wizard we roleplayed the wizard talking the beholder into giving him the amulet. For a moment, I thought it was pretty cheap that a charm spell could defeat the big bad, but it ended up being pretty awesome. All the players thought it was a great fight, and no one was mad that they died. And, as an added bonus, there's now a beholder that'll be seeking revenge on the wizard who got away. Thanks for the advice. That's cool stuff. That's the kind of stuff I like to hear. Man, nothing's cooler than they weren't worried. They should have been. What a great feeling as a DM. And it's a bonus that everybody was okay with the fact that it was like, man, we got wrecked. Like, that makes me feel good, because that's an example of everything kind of like working out the way that you really wanted it to, right? Like, you gave them a memorable beholder, which was your goal from the beginning, right? If I remember the original question correctly. I think that was kind of the question, is like, how can I make this beholder cool? It sounds like you did it. Sounds pretty cool to me. And yeah, you probably technically knew that, but that's not a thing that you really could have assumed. That's just kind of a thing that has to play out, right? So how cool that it was like, here it is, last ditch effort. You're going to lose your caster and then reverse. So some of the party lives, some survives. And to your point, that beholder's still out there. That beholder still exists in your world, or rather forever exists in your world until any players defeat it. So, very well done. I think that you did a great job. See what chat's saying. That was a 10 out of 10 beholder fight. Very well played. I do always enjoy dealing some damage to make the victory mean something. Plus, you've nicely set up the revenge sequel. Yeah, most definitely. And Beholder 2, the wizard must suffer. Never trust the party rogue saying, let's check one more door, when you know you'll need a short rest. Still sure we hit a TPK because of him. We will find out Sunday. Take the short rest. Take the rest, period. That's, that's a thing. That you wouldn't you rather be over-rested than under-rested? Certainly in D&D, as it has a direct result on your hit points, you would want to be over-rested. So, yeah, you want to take advantage of every rest you have, because you don't know when you're going to get another one. You don't know when you're going to get the next one. TPK in the first couple of rounds sucks. Holding on for a dozen rounds is cool. A worthy fight. Yeah, man, 11 rounds? That's nice. That's real cool. And like 5 went in, 2 came out. That feels kind of similar to the end of one of the campaigns I ran. I've talked about it on this podcast before, but there was a campaign that I ran. It was a 5e campaign, I think. And some of the players, so I believe that it was a party of 5, and then 3 of those players had their own evil characters that were doing their own thing in like solo campaigns. Such so that at the end of the campaign, all of these players met up, and it was something very similar where it was like, 8 PCs went in and 3 or 4 came out. And that was actually doubly cool for those players, because some of them, You know, I think one of them lost their villain, but their hero survived, and then the other one was the opposite, where they lost their hero and their villain lived. Some of them, I think somebody maybe lost both, but that's all to say that it has to play out. And I think that this played out beautifully with the Beholder. I think that's really cool. Oh, and by the way, just a quick note. Of course, the cursed amulets didn't come into play. Like the multiple amulets, like, of course, because you put them there. If there's ever a sure way as a DM that you want to make sure that your players don't do something, put a lot of thought into making sure that it's in the details. And they'll most assuredly ignore it or not do the thing. But it sounded like it turned out really, really cool for everybody in the end. So, nice work. Well done. If you multiclass a druid with a necromancer, does that mean you could talk to furniture? I don't know. That's a good question. I'm making a campaign about Kill Bill. I'm wondering if you have any advice for your first campaign. Kill Bill. That's a cool thing. You know what my favorite part of those movies was the fight that she has in the dojo with Go-Go. Isn't that her name? The girl that has the swinging. What is that thing? Is that it's not a flail, right? Because it's just a chain with a spiked ball on the end of it. Anybody know what that thing is? I'm sure that there's a technical name for the weapon, but I'm drawing a blank on what it's called. That sequence, I think, is the best of those movies, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. Persuaded an entire village led by druids to hand over nodules full of treasure. Now the village worships you. Mustang's debut, he started off saving the party and nearly died in the same day. Yeah, that tracks. Sounds like a peppercorn, all right. Yes, I have that as the last fight before Bill. Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. That'll be cool. Well, I don't know. I mean, you could just start in pure chaos if you wanted to. Just lots of fighting. The Morning Star weapon. It's not called a Morning Star, is it? Let me see. Let me see. Because I thought that a Morning Star was just any kind of mace. But this thing... Go Kill Bill weapon. The Meteor Hammer. Whoa, dude. Oh, that's right. It doesn't have spikes. It has like a razor blade around it. Yikes. The meteor... Okay, well, Chad already said it, too. Thank you, Wraith. A Meteor Hammer. Man, what a cool name. Yeah, it's a Meteor Hammer. Flail is a mace head on the end of a chain. Correct. So a mace is just... the stick is the spiked ball on a stick, right? That's a mace or a Morning Star. The flail is the stick with the chain with the ball and spikes. And the Meteor Hammer is the weapon that Go-Go uses in Kill Bill. So we've kind of just eased our way into chat talking about Kill Bill stuff. Mind Flayer ship we dove out of at the start of the campaign, saved everyone with Featherfall before we all went splat. Heck yeah, that's so cool. Then Chaku is a flail. Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Well, I guess that a flail is anything that you that you kind of like. I guess that has a stick on one end and a thing to hit with on the other. Whatever it looks like. Maces and Morning Stars are way more effective weapons than flails. Oh, well, yeah, probably. I mean, you probably have a significant more amount of control with a mace than a flail. Oh, man, this is making me think of the webcomic. So I'm working on a webcomic, and I don't want to talk too much about it, but I'm really excited about it. It's developing nicely. Oh, yeah, let's do that, too, everybody. Let's talk about our good moment of the week. Everybody have a good moment of the week? Something? Anything? Let me see. What was my good moment of the week? Last week it was the realization that this idea is a really good one. So that's true. I would say that, oh, I already know what it is. You know what? This last week, the good moment was for me. It was my wife and I's 4-year anniversary. So, and in August, we'll have been together for 10 years. But we've been married for 4 as of the day before yesterday, or a couple of days ago. So that was nice. Got to spend some time with her and just chill and kind of unplug from all of the business and art stuff for a little bit and just relax. Let's see, what are people's good stuff? The week ended. That was your good moment. Well, hey, that's a moment. It's it's over. There's always next week. It's a reset. Finished your VA move program today, and after 16 weeks, you lost 20 pounds. Nice. Good work. Keep it up. Let's see. Good moment of the week. I just need to find a picture to make a token out of, and my new Pathfinder 1E character will be finished. Heck yeah. Let's see. 16 married, going on 20 together. Nice. Good job. Marriage is not easy, but it's definitely worth it if you've got somebody that you love, and I certainly do. So it was nice to get to celebrate our anniversary this week. Got to go fishing. That's cool. Fishing's always fun. I haven't been fishing in a really long time. There was recently an opportunity for me to go fishing. By the way, I'm glad I didn't take it because I didn't realize that they were going out into the middle of the ocean, which is just like, no thanks. I don't know if this is the right climate for that. I don't know if you've seen what whales are doing to boats, but I'm not trying to go out off of the coast at all. It's dicey enough just living in this state. Good moment of the week, you got to meet your niece's new baby boy. She has 5 daughters and now 1 boy. Oh, wow. That's nice. That's nice. Deep sea fishing. No, thank you. Too scary for me. Has anyone played a character wielding a sickle or a scythe? Back in the 3.5 days, we built Rigsby, Kyle Rigsby, the guy that plays Waylon on the videos, because he and I have known each other since we were kids. In 3.5, we made a subclass, I guess it was like a multiclass or a prestige class, but it was, I forget what it was called, but it was built around that. It was built around someone with the background of a farmer becoming a fighter in using farm tools, i.e. sickle and scythe. Whales sinking boats, otters stealing surfboards. The ocean is full of crime. Yeah, the crime rate's too high in the ocean right now. Rough week, but you finally got to rest in game today. Take it. Well, good. Glad. Yeah, that's, sometimes the best part of the week is the fact that it's over. And that's still a valid thing. It's still a good valid thing. Grouper fishing in the Gulf was a ton of fun back in the day. Nothing quite like looking for land and not seeing anything. Not for me. No, thank you. Maybe it's thalassophobia. I don't know. I think it's just like the idea of the openness that's terrifying to me. The void. We've talked about that before. Space is the same way. You can keep space and ocean. Keep them. I'll look at videos. We'll listen to David Attenborough talk about it. But. Well, wow. We've done it again, team. Shark Week starts Sunday. Oh, fun. Man, the sharks are going off, too. I think I've talked about that guy that got off the coast of Egypt, unfortunately. Lost his life to a great white. Not normal. What is this? No, I don't want to control devices from my screen lock phone. We're trying to wrap up the podcast here. So, thank you all for joining this evening. I have had a great evening. I've had a great week, and I'm glad that we're still moving this thing along on this podcast. I said back on, I believe, episode 24 or something like it, that episode 32 would be special. I've got some plans for how we can make that happen. So episode 32 is coming in, and I've got some cool things planned for it that we will get into, so it'll be a little bit special. And maybe we'll be doing some sort of a release of some, like the album cover or something, maybe. I might be confident and happy enough with it to release it, just so everybody can get a look at what is hopefully to come soon. Before we get out of here, just another reminder to everyone, please send all of your questions to bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. It's a good way to remember it. If you've never sent a question before, please consider doing so. And if you've sent several questions in the past, I appreciate it and always look forward to getting more of them. If you want to get some merch, you can do so over at manshorts.com. And if you want to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. Thank you again to everyone for joining. All of the likes, comments, shares. Don't forget, like the video. If you're hanging out in here, give it a like. It's good for the algorithm. It helps us do better with these things and keep this thing going. I will be back next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Man Schwartz YouTube channel. The audio for this podcast will be available tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm having a great time with this podcast. I hope you all are having a good time with this podcast. Long-time listener, first-time caller, love the show. Keep doing what you love and loving what you do. Thank you very much, Valerian. That's a cool name, too, Valerian. Much love to everybody. Hope you have a fantastic week. We look forward to seeing you next time. And that's it. That's all we got. So, have a good one.